The following episode contains strong language and adult themes and may not be suitable for younger listeners.
Hello and welcome to Fueling Around with me, Jason Plato, and my own highway to hell. It's Dave Vitty.
How are you?
Fueling Around is powered by Adrian Flux. As the UK's largest specialist insurance broker, Adrian Flux will tailor a quote to your exact needs and help you save money on your car, your bike, or even your home insurance. Now then, Dave, that's a quality intro line you've scripted for me there today.
Well, do you know what? I think it applies to both of us because, you know what it's like when we try and get back for one of these at the time of recording. It's 5 p.m. on a Friday afternoon in the UK.
I know.
And we've both had to get back from different things because we didn't want to keep our guests waiting, but I've had the M25 to deal with, which is very much my own highway of hell. And I know that you have these as well. So
that's all I've got is a cup of tea on the go. Huh?
But it was important that we got back because there's no way on earth that we could leave today's special guest waiting.
No, we couldn't. So our guest today, I think it'd be fair to say he's a musical legend.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bonny lad, a canny lad. He's an absolute rock and roll royalty and one of the greatest frontmen of all time. He's a best-selling author, a TV presenter, and importantly, a dyed-in-the-wool petrol head who's collected some incredible motors over the years. But you'll probably know him best from his day job as the lead singer of a tiny little band called AC/DC. It is, of course, Mr. Brian Johnson.
Hey!
Now then, bonny lad, how are you?
Well, thank you very much. That was a heck of an intro. Thanks so much. I might get me an autograph after that.
Brian, listen, thank you so much for joining us. We've wanted to get you on this show for ages. You're talking to us live from your beautiful home in Florida. So listen, it's really nice that we've finally succeeded. You and I have actually met before many, many moons ago, but you won't remember. But we were in the same race together at Silverstone in, I think, 2012, and you made the podium. And it was you on the podium along with JK from Jamiroquai and Kelvin Fletcher. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. It was a fantastic race because I'd never raced Caterham.
It wasn't Caterham. It was they were Morgans.
That was it. I thought it was a Caterham. Anyway, I'd never driven one before because I was doing something else. So I hadn't been to the test day, in the practice days. And I got into this car and I remember the guy saying it was now be careful on the brakes because they tend to be a little front heavy.
Yeah.
Okay then. And of course, what happened, Jason? First, I went down that Hannah Straight, that big left.
Yeah.
Brakes, the smoke coming out the tire.
You locked it up?
Well, of course I did. And I remember just going through the whole race with the front tires going where they hit the flat spot.
Yeah.
And so it was a heck of a job to get past JK because he was all over the place, and he's pretty nippy. And I could not catch the guy in the front who posted a time that was just almost
Kelvin Fletcher.
Was that Kelvin?
It was Kelvin.
Yeah, he's
Kelvin
pretty quick, actually, isn't he?
Yeah, Kelvin Fletcher. He's an actor, and but he's been doing a lot of racing over the years. He's been racing minis and stuff for a long time. But God, he's rapid.
Yeah, he was really quick. He could be up there in the big races,
But he had to go at touring cars for a couple of years.
Well,
he wasn't bad. He wasn't bad, and then he went to GTs.
Yeah, the quality's always there. Some guys are just born with it. You get other guys like me who really want to get good at it. And you listen to guys like you, Jason, we hire them to, to tutor us through a new car or a new racetrack. Whereas now,
mate, I'm really great in Florida on the teaching side. I'm really peachy there.
Yeah, I just got a Chevron B8. I've been after one for
nice.
so long. And I finally got it over here. And Nigel Greensalt, God bless his socks.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time, the insurance company and the management went, Brian, we don't want you racing anymore. It's very dangerous. And I went, well, so is the M25, just like cycle lanes are the most dangerous thing on the planet. I'd rather be on a racetrack. So, and we got there and they said, well, you're going to have to change your name. And I said, well, if it's, the organizers were wonderful. So they said, what's your name? And remember, Joe Walsh, who's a good friend of mine, he always used to go by the pseudonym of Rob Banks.
Right.
So I put Rob Banks, driver, on the top of the car. And Nigel Greensell got quite, he said, well, that's not very nice. Why can't I have a name like that? And I said, well, stick one on. And the next morning, I went to the garage and it was Rob Banks. Andy got away. And it wasn't
got away. That's
it was the 24-hour classic. I'll never forget. And then you could hear the guy on the loudspeaker saying, and it's Rob Banks out of the car. Andy got away, has got in.
Hey, I tell you, me and my pals had an idea years ago to buy a racehorse, and we just only to call it Dick Like Mine.
Yeah.
You can imagine it on the tannoy, couldn't you? And there goes Dick Like Mine.
Yeah, it's fabulous. I love that stuff. But anyway, you know, that kind of thing. My greatest admiration for drivers, the race drivers, you know, of the past, you know, they're all gods, you know, like Fangio, Nuvolari, you know, Moss, Clark, you know, Dan Gurney, all these wonderful, you know, there's too many to mention, really.
And the good old favorite Ken Miles, of course.
Yeah, Ken Miles in the 40. And I was very lucky, very, very lucky. A couple of years ago, I was at Goodwood. I think it was the year before last. And I was in the changing room putting me race suit on. And there was a lovely fella standing next to me, and he said, "Hi, my name's Jim." And I went, "Hello, Jim. Are you all right?" And he went, "Yeah." He said, "What are you racing?" He was racing a Lola, and I was racing a mini, 64 Mini Cooper, and which was very slow. This car, Jesus. And anyway, and Ron Maiden, who runs the Master Series, came over. He said, "Brian, do you know who he is?" I said, "Jim." He says, no. He says, he runs Ford. I said, "What, Europe?" He went, "No, the whole." So I said, "Is that right? You run Ford?" And he said, "Well, yeah, I guess so." You know, such a lovely guy. And I said, "I got a bone to pick with you. Why can't I buy one of them new Ford GTs?
Yeah.
You know, that's X amount of money. Your dealers are selling them for twice the price.
Yeah.
Ridiculous." And he went, "Well, you got to be invited to buy one, and we're only making 3 more." I said, "Well, what about me? What's wrong with?" And he was very funny, and he said, "Well, see what I can do." That night, I went for dinner in London. One of my favorite Italians there, and Mark Knopfler, me pal, he's another Geordie, a mafia.
Yeah.
And I told him what had happened, and Mark got on the phone. Apparently, they're good friends, and he said, "Listen, Jim, you need Brian Johnson in that GT more than he needs your GT." So,
hey, and did it come off?
The next morning, there was a call from America. The next afternoon, it's going, "Hi, this is John D. Snottenheimer III," because they have names like that. "And I'm head of Detroit Ford. And I've been told if I don't build this car for you, I'm out of a job." And it was lovely. And I opened up my computer. He contacted us, and he did something only the Americans can do. And he's going, "Okay, let's build a car." And 3 months later, 4 months later, it was delivered in much pomp and circumstance with the French-Canadian driver who, there was a 3-hour lesson.
No way.
Before you could get in this car.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
But it's a race car adapted for the road, whereas Lamborghini, Bugattis, and Ferraris, they're all road cars, which are adapted for the track.
Yeah.
So this is a race car, and it's a wonderful piece of kit.
They are. They're great.
It's sitting in the garage now. And I love it to death.
Yeah. I mean, they're special, aren't they? Really special bits of kit.
Oh, mate, they frighten you. you know, they just say, don't be an arsehole in me, kid. You know,
Yeah, I've got some teeth. I'll bite you.
I think it's finest cars the Americans have designed since, what would I say, Duesenberg? I would say it's because, you know, the GT40s, that was John Wyer. And,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
It was, there were English boys with an American engine popped in. And, and this is totally, truly American and Canadian, let's put it.
You know, a very different beast.
I think you're right. I think it is the best handling true American car that there's been.
And what I love about it, you know, I hate to get too deep here, but you know, on the back wing, I asked the chap, I said, look at these two little extra things. And he said, they're the gurney flaps.
The gurney strips. Yeah.
Dan Gurney, when he built his own, you know, he came up as an American boy and, you know, and he built the Gurney Eagle. Yeah. You know, and he won the championship in it. And he had these little things on, these little gurney flaps that give him this little edge. Sorry, I'm getting too deep.
No.
But you know what? Interesting enough, the gurney is still used in all levels of motorsport now. Yeah. And it's a little L piece of metal that goes on the back of the wing. Yeah. And that just makes the wing work really well at slow speeds. And it doesn't affect it.
And it's a tiny bit of kit, but it makes a massive difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Dan Gurney was the guy who discovered this.
It's unbelievable. You know, he was right up there with McLaren in a way when you think of, you know, Bruce McLaren coming over and walking into the Cooper Works on his New Zealand scholarship, which the New Zealand, because John Cooper didn't know anything about it. He's just said, McLaren, what do you want? And he's got the New Zealand flag on his blazer and his little BOSC bag on his arm. He's going, I'm the driver. He said, to do what? He said, well, I race cars. And he went, oh, right. And he pointed to a pile of pipes in the corner. He said, there it is, build it.
Brian, listen, I want to talk more about cars with you in a second, but talk to us about the band. I hear rumours then are you back on the road this year?
Well, yes, there were rumors, you know, we were getting ready, you know, to go out, and we have finally decided to do this wonderful show that they put together out in the desert here near Palm Springs, near Coachella.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Indio, isn't it?
It's all rock and roll bands. So there's some fantastic. Honestly, if you're a rock fan, this is supposed to be, I think what they're trying to, I don't know what they're trying to do, but I think it's just a statement to say that rock and roll is a legitimate form of music. You know, it really has made a difference. So we've got the likes of Ozzy's coming out of retirement.
I saw that.
Yeah, you know, I mean, so I'll be able to see me old pals again. You know, the Guns N' Roses boys and the Metallica boys and, you know, and Iron Maiden boys, you know, can you all in one field? Boy, what a party.
I mean, what? So when is it?
Spread out. You know, we're going to be.
So when is this big gig?
It's out near Palm Springs in a beautiful valley. It's near Coachella, you know, with Coachella. And it even could be on there. I never get involved in that kind of thing. I just like to turn up, get up, and just rock me little socks up until I drop, you know. And I'm so excited because 3 years ago we did get together when Power Up, the album, came out. It was fantastic. It went to #1 in about, I don't know, 27 countries or something. And we went, yeah, we're back. We're so proud of the album. And we started to rehearse in Amsterdam. And I'll never forget, you know, Phil was back on drums there. You know, we were just, you know, I had this new earpiece that would invented. Fantastic. And as racing drivers know, you can get a lot of hearing loss with that. But
yes,
AC/DC doesn't help either. That's pretty. it allowed gun a V12 anytime. And we were there, and we were honestly, I've never heard the band so tight. 3 weeks every day. Just, I think we had one day off because we wanted to be there. We wanted to be in each other's company, and it was just fabulous.
And was it like putting on an old glove, an old pair of shoes?
Oh, it was, mate. You know, we fucked up a few words, few chords, and then just got them tight again. And then our tour manager came up and said, "Hey, listen, guys, we got this thing. It's called a Chinese flu or some kind of shit. Just go home for 6 weeks and we'll gather a meet again in London." Well, you know what happened there.
Yeah.
That was 2 years of COVID. Who are, Angus and Phil, the New Zealand and Australia that just wouldn't let them out. For months and months afterwards. So it took a time to get a band like AC/DC together again. It does take a lot of, and most of the crew were out working with other people or Las Vegas, and they suddenly had a steady job. They didn't have to go on tour buses. And so bands were doing Vegas. It was a strange reversal. What you expected. And so here were these crew who'd be away from their family for months at a time, suddenly being able to go home at night, just leave the equipment up, be there the next day to check it. And then the next band would come in and do a month residence. And so, trying to get those guys back again, was always tough. But the boys are doing a fantastic job. And I think I've got my fingers crossed, everything's going to, but I think the most important thing of it all is the eagerness that we all feel. The juices are running again. That you cannot explain. You know what I'm talking about. When you get in a car, the flag's gonna drop. The lights gonna go, and you've done it 100 times, you especially. But it's just that lovely feeling in the helmet. You just go, well, it's me.
I know exactly what you mean.
It'll be amazing.
It's exactly like the start of a show. Don't give it all away in the first call. Don't be an idiot. Just ride it. Tuck in. It's a long race. It's the same. So,
Jason, do you know
exactly the same?
Jason, do you know what? I mean, I've been a lucky boy over the years, and I've been and seen some amazing gigs all around the world. And people often kind of say, "What's the best gig you've ever been to?" And I'm like, do you know what? It's an almost impossible question, right? Because I've been spoiled. But I genuinely, and I always say this, and I'm not just saying it because Brian's here. I said, do you know what? I saw AC/DC at the Hammersmith Apollo years ago. And if it wasn't the best gig I've ever been to, it's got to be in the top 3 there somewhere. It was absolutely knockout with the kind of the cannons, with the fire would kind of scorch your face. And I mean, honestly, it was such a, for a band the size of AC/DC to be in a venue which was relatively small, I would say, do you know what I mean? And really tight and all the hits. And it was just unbelievable. I'll never forget that night.
I burned a lot of caps that way. The things and I was come up to be singeing. I'd be going, what the fuck? And
like a pyrotechnic mind.
The pyrotechnic man. A pyrotechnic man. He's called Pyro Pete. And he shaves his head up like a mohawk. And, he's got a big tattoo on the side of his head with an arrow, and it says "This way up." He's mad as he's the most wonderful, smartest. Ever. Blew himself up behind stage one night testing the cannon because it's real gunpowder. He has to have a special license, and he had a little torch in his mouth, a little flashlight in his mouth where he was priming it, and it blew up.
No. Jesus.
Well, he lost it. He couldn't say anything. We'll ask, are you all right? He's going, did the photo come out good?
Hey, now then, Brian. Hey, Brian, tell us about the book, The Lives of Brian. I mean, it was released last year. It's been the Sunday Times bestseller. What's the crack there?
I don't know. I just wanted to, I was getting on a bit. I'm 75 now, and I thought, a couple of years ago, I said, I don't know. I just saw friends and in the business just popping off on a regular basis, and everybody thought, when I joined AC/DC, well, where did he come from? What was he? But I just decided, it wasn't that easy. You had to really serve your apprenticeship, and we did. And there was so many funny stories on the way, and so many great pals who are my friends at school and in the army or the TA thing and at work, and they're still my friends.
Mm.
And I think that's important to everybody. And I just wanted to just to tell people, like, give them a little bit of inspiration. It doesn't matter where you're from or what you know. It's like one of the quotes I put in the book. I said, "Experience is what you get when you don't get what you want."
How true is that?
And it's true. And I just came into my head when I thought of that, and I said, "Yeah, whenever you don't get something, hey, listen, mate, that's an experience.
Yeah.
That's called learning. You know, you can't always, you know, get it. So, but, and I just wrote it down by hand, and I thought, well, and I phoned a lot of my friends. I said, did this really happen, or is it just my memory fading? And they go, no, it didn't happen. And this is true, and that's true. And I learned more and more about me past as I started talking to them about situations. I thought, well, I'll put it down. Honestly, I'm not a good writer. You know, I wrote it by hand because me typing skills are zero, you know, and it was, it's like I always ask the question, I won't be able to say this, you'll have to cut this out, but it's just like the little boy, my life said, he says, Daddy, where do babies come from? And his daddy said, well, son, a stork brings him. And the kid said, who fucked a stork? I mean, there's always another ending to it. You know what I mean?
Well, tell you what,
that's very rude. I shouldn't have said that.
No, not at all. Listen, we're all grown-ups here, but I mean, I would imagine your book is fascinating, genuinely. I mean, some of the stories of over the years, I mean, just must be knockout.
Yeah, well, it was. There's a lot of them I couldn't put in because I couldn't afford to go race until I joined the ACDC. Fortunately, and as JP will tell you, that vintage racing is the greatest redistribution of wealth in the world.
Oh my God, yeah. How to make a small fortune? Start off with a big one.
Yeah, you've got that's right. And but boy, oh boy, you know, it's just some of the moments racing's brought me. Listen, I've got this thing, guys. I wanted to show you here, JP. Let's see it. But when I went to the Alfa Romeo factory to have a look around, and I met the mechanic, Juan Manuel Fangio's mechanic, and he gave me published photographs, and with the thing in the back. And look at this. This is Nürburgring, 57 in the 250F.
Yeah, I mean, beautiful.
And at the Nürburgring, I got this timing sheet of him. Now, on the timing sheet, Albert, it says Pilota, number 1, Fangio, Hawthorne, Collins, Musso, and Moss. Moss was in a van wall, poor sod. And he was up against 3 Ferrari, you know, and a Maserati. But if you look at the times, on the first lap, Fangio 9:46, Hawthorne 9:42, Collins 9:43, Ferrari 9:56, Van Wall 10:02, and then you go right down. And I know that Fangio had to stop because he got a 10:48, so he probably had to splash of fuel or change it. And then we get a lap 20 because he had to catch them up. 9:17.
That's quick, isn't it? Back then.
Oh, that was the race where he said, when he got out of the car and he won, he said, I'll never do that again.
Good, yeah.
And I mean, the closest guy to him was Collins with a 9:28.
Yeah. I mean, like 10. Yeah.
It's just
unbelievable.
But when they say I'll never do it again, you know, when you think about something scaring somebody like that, I mean, that's just a measure of the whole, you know, the whole achievement and the whole feat of it, isn't it?
But I think the most wonderful thing about that day is took me to the Balocca test track. You know, the Alpha test all the cars from decades back. And the guy said, Brian, for you, because he knew Nuvolari was my big hero, you know, and he said, for you, he's Tazio's helmet. He said, you know, just to put on. He wasn't giving me it.
Never.
But I remember putting it on Tadzio Nuvolari's helmet. I was going, oh my God, I cannot believe it. And he said, he snapped his fingers and he went, ragazzi. And this big door opened and these immaculately white, the suited guys came out, with the, the Alpha badge, and they came out and there it was, the P3. The actual, and they rolled it out and I thought, well, this must be for a photo op. I got in it and I went, oh my God. And of course, I remember the 4C had just come out at the time and there was a lot of press there. And then these mechanics opened the side of the hood and started the engine.
No way.
And the guy said, Brian, for you, vattene, go. And I went, what on the track? And he went, see. And of course, the gear shift is under the steering wheel.
It's in the middle,
And the drive shaft comes down and it splits like a Y, just under. It's flat. The wheels were on all the places where wheels should be. This car really started the design for the modern Grand Prix cars, as the word then.
And did that have the clutch and the brake round the wrong way?
Yeah, it was all fucked up.
I mean, what's all that about?
Why would they do that?
Well, I mean, the old cars did. The clutch was in the middle, and the brake was on on
Yeah. Well, it's the same as my old Bentley there.
That'd be the same, eh?
The accelerator's in the middle.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just remembered, and I went out there, and it was late in the afternoon, and the sun was setting in the beautiful hills of Italy, and I'm driving around going, oh my God. And then I started getting quicker. And then I thought I was Tadzio Nuvolari. I had a bit of a brain fart, and I went, yeah. And you could see the worried look on the mechanics going, all right. And I never saw them. Apparently, they've been telling us to stop and come back in. I never saw them, and till the sun was setting and I pulled in. And I just remember I was sitting in the car that raced the 1936 German Grand Prix, and Hitler had just released the Silver Arrows, Auto Union, Mercedes, with Von Vausch, what's his snitch name? He was the poor English guy who had to give the Nazi salute. No, that poor sod. And he beat them. He beat them in a 3-year-old car, and he was Italian, and he drove in a T-shirt with a pack of fags up the sleeve or something like that. And he won in front of Hitler, in front of the world, the Italians. That's how he was a hero. In the First World War, they said, can you drive? And he said, yes. So the stupid buggers put him in an ambulance. They said, take these wounded back to the thing. And he went into a ditch. I mean, he was mad. And one race, he was... they took him, he was so injured that they put him in a body cast, a whole body cast.
Right.
And somebody came in and said, there's a race tomorrow. This is all true. You can check his bio. He snuck out of the hospital and he got into this car and he raced it in a body cast. And he was so uncomfortable with the seat that he threw the seat out. Out of the car because your body cast wouldn't make him fit. Or he put a bunch of leaves in there or something. This man to me is what legends are made of,
without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, that era, there was
there were just
a few proper legends.
I know. I mean, these are some incredible cars and incredible drivers, Brian. But take us back to the beginning, if you will, in terms of like where did it all start for you? What was the first car, for example? And can you remember passing your test?
Yes. Well, the first thing that I noticed in our street in a council house estate in Dunstan in the northeast of England, how few cars there were. Right. And when we went to bed at night, if a headlight shadow, headlight shadow,
I know.
Headlight went across the ceiling, we were going, "Where's he?
Who's that?" Yeah,
he's not on a bus, And I remember I decided, my father, God bless him, one day it was on my 17th birthday, and he went, because he was Sergeant Major, didn't say much at all, I talked about, and he went, yeah, happy birthday. And it was a key. And I looked, I went, what's his dad? And he says, it's outside. And I looked out the window, and there it was, a Ford Popular sit up and it was like, oh, what color was it? It was Ford. Well, I don't know, it was a funny shade of grey, whatever, but it had a salmon pink interior. I mean, honest, lads, I wouldn't put it. And
where did he get that from, eh?
He got it from work for 50 quid.
Never.
He bought it from a guy who, because everybody was buying the new shape, the 105Es, these new shapes, and everybody that was driving these old cars. It was a 1959 model, one of the last made. Nobody wanted to be seen in them. I mean, when you drove them, it always sounded like the most tired dog sled team, the tongues hang. and every time you put it in third, or if you put it in gear and you went up a hill and it was raining, the windshield wiper wouldn't, because I only had one, it wouldn't work. It was like a dick. It just sat there, and you had to stick out the window. And you usually had to put it in first to get up a hill. But I loved it. It was freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom. And I went to sit me test. I went for my first lesson at the British School of Motoring in Newcastle, who had just got in Austin 1100s. It was 1964. Mm-hmm. In England, I have an Austin 1100s, 1964. It's my prized possession.
Still got it? Yeah.
No, it's a different one. This was a British School of Motoring.
Right, yeah.
And it was blowing. I was looking. And I'll never forget, the driving instructor came over with his thing, with his little pad, whatever it was, and he had a little trilby on, and a scarf, a silk thing, and a 3/4 thing coat, like what they used to wear then.
Yeah.
And he had it. His nose was. I try to remember how to explain it. It was like end of cock purple. It was. It was. This man was a drinker. I mean, he really was. And as he got closer, I was looking at him, and I thought he had like a moustache, which later, when he got closer, there were nose hairs. These were
you're joking.
Clipped to anything. And I remember I said, right, another vehicle. I went, what? A vehicle, fucking hell. And I told him, I said, which pedals do what? And he went, what? I said, I mean, it really was my first time. I hadn't been in the Ford Popular. I wasn't allowed to, of my dad, I had to pass my test, go out with
first time.
And anyway, it turned out all he said to me was, no. And it turned out that he was as bad an instructor as I was a driver. It was not going to work. And of course, I failed.
Hey, did you pass first time?
No, I failed. And I failed on the questions, actually. I think I said, when he said, when mustn't you overtake? I think I said Humpback Bridge 4 times.
Yeah. Whilst reversing.
I mean, that's true, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it was true. I failed on me questions. And so the second time I took it in a friend's Mini.
I failed twice. Passed on my third go.
I tell you what, a funny thing. Me brother, I have 2 brothers, Morris and Victor. And Morris, me younger brother, he said, Victor was real nervous. He's going, oh, I don't have a present. And Morris, me brother, said, oh, yeah. What time's your test? He said, it's tomorrow. Something. Because Morris had his license. He said, yeah, I'll sit it for you. Nobody's going to know the difference. So
no way.
He went and sat it, and he failed. Victor went, you useless git.
So what came after the Popular?
Well, the Popular I put the Popular in part exchange for don't laugh, lads, for a Hillman Minx.
Right, okay.
Because it had loads of dials.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it didn't have. It only had 2 sills under the doors, which rapidly dropped off, and it was a rust bucket. Yeah. It was. So my old man took us out next time, and he said, "Come on." and we went, and I got a Ford Anglia with with a strange back window.
Yeah.
I like that. And I
Did
still
it come?
felt-
Did it come in that way? Like
Yeah,
sort of,
it came in
was
that way.
out and then back in again, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was a strange old thing, but I got it. But I still felt, driving that and seeing the minis, I still felt like a Canadian. When in Canada, it's like living over a really cool party and nobody invites you. And that's what I felt like. And it's.
I've never heard that before, Brian. Is that what they say about the Canadians?
Well, some people. I mean, I don't know. I'm just being cruel.
I like it.
Canadians. I love Canadians, especially their songs. And now it's true that it had to be a Mini. They were just the greatest everyman car. They were the first classless car where everybody could be seen, the beautiful movie stars, all the handsome dudes, royalty, and everybody went in one. And I mean, Paddy Hopkirk, who I was very lucky to know. Paddy came to about 5 of my birthdays. In fact, he made sure he did, because he and his lovely, gorgeous wife, and he'd always sit there and he'd walk around, and I'll never forget Paddy. He would come. He was always immaculately dressed, Paddy. And then one night, his lovely wife couldn't get there, and he said, "Right, Brian, I'm off." And I said, "Well, have you got a ride or something? Because, we'd all been well served." And he said, no, I'm just going to get the bus. I went, "It's 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. You're going to, what, on the King's Road?" He said, yes, don't worry about it. He was that kind of guy. I said, we got him a drive home, He just, where do you find those guys now? And he passed away last year, and it just, it broke my heart. Same as Norman Jewis.
Yeah, I know.
Remember Norman?
The
the tales he used to tell. I was
well. Do you know what? Before he died, I did an item for Fifth Gear where we retraced, and we did that famous trip he did across the Alps to the Geneva Motor Show.
Yeah, with the E-Type.
In the E-Type, yeah. And we got a car out the Heritage Place, and Norman was there, and he said, "Look, this is a really special car. It was on, it's one of the originals, mate. Go on your trips." And we tried to retrace that route with nothing more than a bag of apples and 2 pints of milk, and that's what he had on the passenger seat.
That was it.
Yeah, and a bag of apples and 2 pints of milk, and we did the trip, and we arrived at Geneva for the motor show. It took us 2 and a bit days to go, but I forget his record because we were filming, but he did it in something like, it might be like 11 or 12 hours.
Yeah, he did. Well, he had to leave, and then he had to catch the boat. What time of night it was, and then he had to get it. And they only give him so much money for petrol, because that what's his name, the head of Jaguar. I've just had a brain fart. The name of the Lord. No, it wasn't Lord. Bollocks. I forgot his name. But he was a real old. He was a brilliant design. I mean, the XK 120s and the D types and the C types, were all him. Why have I just had a brain fart? Anyway, when Norman Jewis, people forget, he drove with Sterling Moss. And he just got out of his session, and the boss of Jag, God damn it, my brain, came up and said, that car sounds off, because Sterling Moss was in it. And he said, "I think there's a plug off." He said, bring him in. And so they brought Sterling Moss in, and he said, we tested it the old-fashioned way with a finger. You burnt yourself, and the one that was cold was the bad plug. And then he took it out and all that. And he said, I went back inside, and off he went. I was sitting looking at this plug going, and in came, I'm going to get so angry when I remember this guy's name after this.
William Lyons.
Thank you so much. Lyons comes in, and he goes, "Jewish." And he's going, "What?" He said, why is that bloody, because he was Jag test drivers, why is that bloody plug not working? He said, well, no, Mr. Lyons, so he said, it's buggered. He went, I don't pay you a weekly wage to drive with buggered plugs. He said, don't let this happen again. And he said he treated them like real dirt. He said, and when they got back from Le Mans, he went into the office and you could never see Lyons. You could only see his secretary, this guy. And he said, I've come in for me check. He said, what check? He said, for winning the 24 hours of Le Mans.
Yeah.
He said, you ungrateful bastard.
Is that what it said?
They let you drive. He said, no. He said, I know Sterling Moss got paid. And he said, come back tomorrow. So he did, and they gave him a check. It was supposed to be £200 for winning the thing.
Wow.
They gave him a check for 157. He says, what's it for? He said, that hotel and food. Talk about, oh. And Norman would sit and laugh, you know. And at 90-something years old, he was sitting with me in a D-type. And he said, go on, lad. Go on, see what you can do, lad, because he used to talk like that with him. And in the morning, we went looking for him. We said, Norman's not here. The film crew and everything were banging on the door. And people, there was real worry. Well, where the hell's Norman gone? And we went round the back and we thought, oh, my God, we better call the police and an ambulance. He might have, you know. And I was... Just then we heard this thing, I'll be down in a minute, lad. And he was up on the roof. He said, I've got a loose tile up here. I said, oh.
No, I tell you, he was a real character. Many years ago, Autocar magazine used to do like a drifting challenge, and they'd get a race driver, a rally driver, a test driver, a policeman, an ambulance driver. And I mean, we're going back like 15, 20 years now. And they'd have like an M5, and then they'd have some weird stuff, and they had a hearse, right? And this was at TRL, a test track down near Cobham, and Norman wanted to drift the hearse. And I tell you what, he got it properly sideways. Did he? He won that element of the competition. Yeah, he was the best in the hearse at drifting. I never forget that.
That's fantastic. I mean, honestly, as I said,
he was in his. He must have been in his 80s then.
It's in his DNA. It's in his blood.
Yeah. Forget about him, Jason. What about the fellow in the back?
He
was calm. He was quiet. He didn't pipe up.
No, but I love it. But all those guys, you know, and I think Norman and Sterling Moss had a lovely relationship, you know, from all the years. I saw them later on when they were together. And I remember when I was doing the Enstall rally or something, and Sterling Moss was there, and I'd never met him before. And for the first time in my life, I was lost for words. He said, oh, sit down there. And I sat next to him, and I was going, well, and he was talking, and we ended up talking about hearing aids for half an hour. And I wanted to ask him everything, you know. He's going, oh, hearing aids, okay. I said, well, you know, it's not doing it.
And he's really little as well, isn't he? Jason, do you remember? Like there was a couple of years ago, and we met him on some corporate dude. Do you remember? And he was like tiny.
Yeah, he's titchy, but a lovely bloke.
I know, a lovely man. Brian, I want to talk to you about the car collection because, you know, as somebody who was, you know, made a home for so many wonderful machines over the years, what does the current fleet consist of?
Well, you know, I was never a collector that, like, you know, I've got some friends who I can take you to their garage, and there's about 40 vehicles in there, are all covered with dust cloths.
Yeah.
And I walk in and I think I'm in some kind of mausoleum.
Yeah, nothing goes out.
I don't like it. It scares me. All my cars, like I've got a couple in the local museum here now. I'll just go up and say, you know, and he'd pull it out and off I'll and you know, and the cars in England, you know, they'll be used by me nephews or me brother. Keep it driving, lads. Keep them going. And you know, I just love to drive them. Me, you know, like I got my dream car about 15 years ago. It was a Rolls-Royce Phantom.
Yeah.
When it looked good, the first one. And I bought it, and I drive it like I stole it. It's the best freaking car I've ever had. I mean, it's just 12 cylinders of just, you know,
joy.
It's great and it's comfy, and you just always have a smile on your face. You know, modern cars. I remember I got the Jaguar X7 or something. You know, like the F type, but with the little thing on the back. I fell out of love with it.
Did you?
Yeah, I just went. It had a pretendy noise thing that went pop, 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 pop.
Yeah, I'm not sure about them.
I felt like a stupid yob, you know, trying to somebody. It wasn't right. The GT, the Ford GT, that's proper. I still enjoy the noise of a Ferrari. I think more than anything. I don't know why. There's something about.
Me too.
Yeah, I just can't help it. You know, I mean, you sit in a Ferrari and you turn the engine on, and your sphincter starts to go like a squirrel's nose. Yeah. That's when you know you're in heaven. You know, or when you're coming into Paddock Hill, and you know you're too fast. The old squirrel's nose thing starts.
And you get out the seat and you've made a little tiny volcano as you jumped out. Do you know what I mean? Like a miniature volcano. Like, fuck, was I really squeezing that hard?
Isn't it terrifying, that corner, JP? I mean,
I love it.
You used to fly around there with things. I just looked at you guys in the British touring cars, and I just going, how is that freaking?
Do you know what, that whole circuit, particularly the Grand Prix circuit at Brands Hatch, that Alton Park, all the classical circuits,
you
know, where there's a bit of up and down, there's funny cambers, they're the great places. We're so lucky in the UK. We've got some brilliant.
That's why you would like Road Atlanta.
Atlanta, yes.
Yeah, you know, up there, I've had a lot of success there. I don't know why, because I just love the ups and downs, the elevations. The blind, you know, the top,
the blind crests and stuff.
And you kind of see how it, and then and you get to the top, and you know you're doing well because you feel that nothing beneath you. You know, the wheels aren't off like the old boys used to be. Suspension's got nowhere else to go, and you go woo.
Have you ever given it a good spank around the Nürburgring, around the Nordschleife?
Not the real one. The Nordschleife. I raced George Toomer's 71 RS 2.7, a real one, and I drove it. I had it with Jochen Mass, because me and Jochen gone way back, and he's a funny.
He's lovely, isn't he?
And
he's a right cracker.
Lion, I will go out first for this one, and I will set a time for you. And I said, I've never raced a Porsche before. He said, you're gonna fucking hate it. I said, what? He said, no, everything's backwards. He said, but one thing I can tell you, if you overcook a corner, let go of the steering wheel. And
is that what he said?
He was right. I cooked the last corner way too far. I was going, oh, bollocks, I've lost this. And I remember, and the whole thing settled.
Yeah. Really?
What's that? I said, and then it all clicked with us. But I will never be a fast Porsche race driver. Those guys are just, you know,
the old ones are real specialists, and you've got, you know, like Armin Hahner and all these people. You really got to know what you're doing. They're great.
Jochen was the funny one, you know. Jochen, I was racing with him at Daytona. I was driving at the time I had a Lola T70 Mark 1. And it was known as the Widowmaker, which didn't feel too. It was the last one, chassis number 15. And it was chassis number, the last one made, and I'm not surprised. It was driven by Ken Bucknell, I think he was, who died, who left them. That's when the Can-Am racing was on, and he left to go to Canada to test drive Honda's new, and he was killed. in practice, and when he was practicing it. And I got in this car, and Jochen was beside him saying, "You're driving this?" And I went, "Yeah." And he went, "You're crazy." I went, "No." So
they're proper things, they are.
But anyway, we got on so well. So in the morning, I got my mechanics to write something on the top of his car, and what I wrote on was "Rockin' with Jochen." And he came out the next morning, the face like, straight. Yeah. Who has written this on my car, on my machine? And he's going, "Rockin' with Jochen." I said, "I'm sorry, mate, I'll get it off you." And no, for this I like. He is with it for ages. And we had some lovely tussles in the Mille Amelia. I had a 53 C-type, and he had a 53 Mercedes SL. One of the first ones. That was worth. These two cars were worth. God, I'm scared.
Scary.
Mark Dixon was, Mark Dixon for Octane magazine. Yeah. He's for the reporter. He's been with him for a while. He was me navigator, and we were flying down this hill, chasing. It's not supposed to be a race. Chasing down this car, and of course we get to the checkpoint. The door opens, and out gets Jochen. He's going, "I must have known you was so crazy with the teeth and looking like you." And it was just, it's magic moments like that,
Yeah.
That kind of racing allows you to drive with real racers. You suddenly remember you're just an amateur compared to a guy like a good self, young JP. And they're just in a different level, And, it was fun, though, and it's a joy to be able to have those.
Well, that's what's great about the historic scene now, in that it's so big, and it makes. I mean, every time I go to Goodwood, and I go most years.
Yeah,
I'm like you when you meet these legends, and they're there. They're all there, aren't they? I mean, it's a very special event.
Well, I'll probably see you very soon because I'm going for the track day. And then I just got invited today, actually, for the Festival of Speed,
The festival,
which is always great, and it's a fantastic day out.
Well, we will most certainly share a bevy. We'll have a beer, eh?
Absolutely. Well, I'm not going to be in a car, so I'll be bevying.
Right, let's stick that one on the calendar. Listen, Brian, we're nearly out of time, sadly, but there is one.
Sorry.
No, not at all. There is one question, though, that we ask all of our guests. And you know what?
Yes.
This has never been more appropriate, I don't think, than for you, because it's almost like we made this question for you. And it is this. Myself and Jason have always said that music and cars go well together, we think. So, Mr. Brian Johnson, we need your fantasy drive, please. Where are you? Where are you going? What are you listening to? And most importantly, where are you going?
Okay. Well, first of all, my fantasy drive I can't say the P3 because that's a race car. I would probably say a low chassis Invicta.
Yep.
And what I'd be listening to, and I'm not trying to be funny or make a pun out of this, one of my favorite songs to listen to when I'm driving is Low Rider by War.
Yeah.
And I would be driving probably in Amstel in Austria, up the roads up there, which is
perfect,
so beautiful and so stunning. And in that car, and if it wasn't that one, it would be an Alfa Romeo GTV, 1967, 68, something. If you're modern and old, the Invicta is just, it's a bit of a penis extension, but who gives everybody, so was the A-type, that's what I do it for, the size of this. And so between the two of them, I would be torn. But Richard Frankel, who's a good friend of mine, who has two of these cars, let me have one of them for the Install Rally. And I don't think, and I love a guy like that. It's the rally, it's over 3 days, and all it is a big piss up, but lots of special things you've got to do. And he said, Brian, because Richard talks like that, and he said, Brian, the rules are simple. He said, let's try to come fucking last. That way we have more fun. No. And he's right. He said, do everything wrong and you'll have a lot of fun.
Enjoy yourself.
So we were on the Red Bull Ring. The two were fucking, and you're supposed to do one lap at 60 and you make so many points, but at exactly 60, one lap exactly 35 miles an hour, one lap at exactly, I was fucking bollocks to this.
Throw that away.
Me and him were, banging doors, taking numbers, smiling, waving at everybody, especially the stewards who I can't fucking stop.
Yeah, you were just waving back.
Well, we did. Thank you very much. Thank you.
But do you know what, Brian? Actually, for that question, often one of the tracks that gets mentioned on more than one occasion is, unsurprisingly, is Back in Black, which I kid you not, this morning when I was on the M25, it came on and I thought, right, we're talking to Brian later on, and it came up. But my favorite time of ever listening to that record was on is it US Highway 1, the one that goes down to the Keys with all the bridges?
Yes.
And I was driving down there, and it's an amazing drive. It's an amazing piece of road because you just go over. Have you ever done it, Jason? It's just ocean either side for miles and miles. And,
it's fantastic. It's where you go from Mexico and meet you.
And that song came on, and do you know what? It's the time that I remember that song most. Being in an open top car, driving down there in the Florida sunshine, you're just thinking, oh. Well,
I would have said that, but you would have thought I was a big head. So,
yeah, exactly. And I knew you wouldn't. I knew you wouldn't. And Jason, listen, mate, on that note, you need to take us out.
Well, do you know what? I don't want to. I'd love to sit and talk for the rest of the night.
It's fantastic, my son. But you know what? We shall continue this conversation with one arm on the bar, one leg up on the bar rail, and a glass.
Absolutely. And I shall look forward to that, Brian. But unfortunately, that is it for this week's Fueling Around, powered by Adrian Flux. As the UK's largest specialist insurance broker, Adrian Flux will tailor a quote to your exact needs and help you save your money on your car, your bike, or even your home insurance. Dave, as always, thank you. But a huge thanks to our very special guest this week, the one and only Mr. Brian Johnson. Thank you, mate.
Thanks, lads. Thanks for having us.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure. Don't forget, by the way, Brian's book, The Lives of Brian, is available now from all good bookshops and even some bad ones as well. Don't forget, also, you can get in touch with us on Twitter at Jason Plato or at David Vitty. And if you've liked what you've heard, feel free to give us a 5-star rating, press the follow button, and share the podcast on all your socials.
Top stuff. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Ta-da.